Hello and welcome to the Manga Spotlight. This is Leviathan, a violent sci-fi thriller by Kuro Shiro. And the best way I can describe this series would be Lord of the Flies, but in outer space. And for anyone who's not familiar with Lord of the Flies, Battle Royale, but in outer space. So the little plot summary that we have here says, the spaceship Leviathan was once the arena for a cruel battle of survival. The only hope, a cryogenic chamber. But there's only room for one person. I'm pretty sure you can guess where this is going. So usually what I do with the Manga Spotlights is I kind of go over the basic gist of what it is. I kind of go over the first couple chapters just so you can kind of see, okay, this is what the story's about. This is kind of where the story might be going. And then we discuss it afterwards. So we start off this series with a bunch of scavengers. And they are at this derelict ship called the Leviathan, and they break inside and they're searching. They're just searching for whatever they can find. Like I said, they're scavengers. And the Leviathan is basically what looks like a giant ferry ship. So they think, okay, maybe there's going to be a lot of like valuables in here. If it's a ferry ship, then that means there's going to be a lot of cargo. And while there, they find this notebook. And as they're reading the notebook, it turns out that it is actually a diary from one of the passengers. And they kind of learn that this is a ship. It's called the Leviathan. It used to do trips between Alpha Centauri C and Earth. Communications were suddenly cut off while traveling between the colonized planet and Alpha Centauri and Earth. And it's considered lost. And there's a huge reward for anyone that finds this ship. So, of course, our scavengers are super excited about this because they found it. And what we have is the story taking place in two timelines. We have the present, which is the scavengers going through this ship, and then we have the past, which is the ship before and just after it's had its accident, and it's the survivors that are on the ship and what's going on in their final moments. And we get a lot of craziness going on. So our main character is named Ichinose Kazuma, and there's this other female character named Nikidao Futaba, and they are basically our two main characters. So what we find out is that the ship is carrying a bunch of students, a bunch of kids. And there's, of course, a couple of teachers. And one day, a meteorite impacts with the ship. It just hits it, ends up killing all the adults except for just a very few couple. The air supply on the ship gets destroyed, so there's air, but it's very, very limited. And of course, this is everyone trying to figure out, okay, what exactly are we going to do? And one of the teachers basically comes across this robot that works on the ship. It's kind of like the ship's AI, but in physical form. And it leads the teacher to like the bulkheads where the life ships are at, the escape pods. There's no way to get to it. So they're basically screwed. They're stuck on this ship. They have no way to escape. But eventually, our two main characters, Ichinose and Futaba, decide to just kind of go explore. And as they're exploring, they hear the teacher talking to this robot. And the robot explains that there's nothing we can do. We can't get to the escape pods. The teacher asks for like maybe send like an SOS. And the robot explains a long track SOS signal can be sent within the communication equipment, but there is no communication equipment in the residential areas, which means that they're stuck here. Like I've already been sending SOS signals, but there's no answer within the reach zone. So I can only send an SOS within a certain area. There's no one in this area. I can't do long distance SOS because I need the long range equipment, but we can't access that because the meteorites that have impacted our ship have blocked our access or just completely blown out the communication area. So our survivors are stuck in the residential area. They can't access any other parts of the ship. The robot then explains, I'm afraid we don't have much time. There is not enough oxygen in here. Like in normal circumstances, there would be enough oxygen for a year, but the explosions have hit one of the parts of the ship that we've lost, which contains the main oxygen tank. Right now, we're already using the reserve oxygen tank. We have about 50 hours of oxygen left before we have reached the survival limit. Of course, the robot explains everyone's going to die after 50 hours because no living creature can live without oxygen. So there's no other choice. And of course, our teacher is like, okay, well, There's got to be some other choice that we can do. Like, we can't just stay here and suffocate to death. So the robot goes through the database searching. He's like, well, there is a way for one person to survive. And the robot basically takes him to an older part of the ship where there is a hibernation device that was used for long duration trips. It's no longer needed just because of the way the technology has been. So it's kind of just used as a freezing room at this point. But if you want, you can basically freeze yourself in this hibernation. It'll put you in a state of suspended animation, and you can stay here until a rescue team arrives. So the robot can basically have someone stay in the hibernation chamber. He's going to keep putting out the SOS. Maybe at some point someone will come to save you, but it could be years, it could be decades. We have no idea how long it'll take. However, you'll be stuck in suspended animation, so you'll be fine. So then it becomes this thing where the teacher's like, okay, how many of these devices are there? The robot says, there's only one. Only one person can survive. And so the teacher's like, all right, don't tell anyone about this. It's only going to create unnecessary commotion. And that's when our two main characters, who are just children, end up making a noise. The teacher notices. He realizes that one of the students have overheard him. And he sees a little small medicine bottle that has been dropped by one of our students. So then he goes out and he starts talking to the remaining students. And while there, he sees a medicine box, and he realizes that Futaba is the one that got the medicine box, which means that she's most likely the one that dropped the medicine. So the teacher tells one of the students to tell Futaba, hey, a boy's badly hurt. I need you to go into the kitchen. She goes into the kitchen where the teacher's there waiting, and the teacher, he calls her out. He's like, I know you heard about me talking to the robot about the hibernation. And he basically decides, I'm going to have to kill you. Like, only one person can survive. It's going to be me. I can't allow you to not only have this knowledge, but to possibly tell any of the other students. So I'm going to have to put you down. So the teacher tries to kill Futaba. She fights back. Eventually, she's able to stab him in the back and kill him. And so the other students see the dead body of the teacher. They start freaking out because they realize, okay, this teacher did not die from the meteorite, obviously, because we just saw him talking a while ago, and he has a knife in his back. So someone here has murdered a teacher. What's going on? Kazuma confronts Futaba. Kazuma knows that Futaba is the one that killed the teacher, and Futaba tells him, he tried to kill me, so I had to kill him. And also, the less people that know the truth, the better. So don't tell anyone about the hibernation chamber, because then only me and you will know about it, which means that our chances of surviving will be 50% because one of us is going to get there to the chamber. And eventually, the secret gets out. The secret about the chamber gets out. The students realize that they have less than 50 hours of oxygen. The students don't know where the hibernation chamber is. Only Kazuma and Futaba know. Kazuma and Futaba aren't going to tell anyone, though. And so we have the students freaking out. And then basically this is where we get our Lord of the Flies moment, where the students start breaking off into groups and start murdering each other. Well, some of them want to murder, others just want to survive. And then it basically becomes a survival of the fittest, because then they start realizing that only one of us can survive. So we can work in groups until we start eliminating the competition, but eventually we're going to have to turn on each other. And so it becomes this whole thing where no one can trust anybody. Students are murdering each other. And of course, our two main characters are just like involved in all this. Meanwhile, in the present day with the scavengers, they're going through the notebook, the diary, and it's the diary of Kazuma. And as they're starting to read it, they start realizing, wait a second, this is Kazuma telling us what's going on, but things are not quite matching up with what he's describing. Maybe they find like a dead body in a place that it shouldn't have been. Maybe they see footage that Kazuma has described one way, but the video, like the security camera, shows it happened in a completely different way. So then we start getting this twist of what's going on. Who is Kazuma telling the truth? Is he lying? What is going on? How faithful is this logbook? And then we get this really crazy twist, which I'm not going to spoil because I really do want you to read it for yourself and appreciate it. But it's very, very interesting the way the author is able to pull this off. Basically, we have this twist that just completely takes the story in a whole other direction. You're thinking, oh, it's going to be like this, and then bam, the twist happens, and you're like, oh my god, I was not expecting that. It doesn't like come out of nowhere and just feel like an ass pull or anything like that. Like if you go back and look through, like after the twist happened, I went back and read some of the earlier chapters, and I'm like, oh, now that I know the twist, reading these earlier chapters, I can see them setting up for that twist. So I love the fact that the seeds were planted, but they're so like you can't even notice until the twist actually happens. It just kind of goes over your head until the twist happens. But before you can fully like appreciate or marinate, I should say, in this twist, another twist happens. So we get a twist, and then we get a twist to the twist. So yeah, this series, like, you keep thinking it's going to go in one direction, and then it just completely pulls the rug out from under you. And then as you're getting your bearings and getting back to your feet, it pulls the rug out from under you again. And I love it. It's crazy. But yeah, we basically get just the students turning on each other. We also have Kazuma and Futaba kind of turning on each other in a sense. Like, Futaba starts setting things up to try to blame Kazuma, like to get like the students to kind of go after him so that she can get to the hibernation. At the same time, she's willing to like kill anyone that she needs to so that she can have a better chance to survive. And then meanwhile, Kazuma, obviously he doesn't want to, be killing people. And so we have just this dynamic between Futaba willing to do anything to survive, Kazuma kind of being dragged along with this, all the other students freaking out and just turning into a bunch of degenerates and just killing each other and doing all kinds of crazy stuff to each other and just losing their marbles because they realize like we only have like not even 2 days left of oxygen. We have no idea where this hibernation chamber is. Obviously we know that someone has to know where it's at, and so everyone's killing everybody. They also start realizing that, hey, if we start killing each other, that's less people breathing oxygen. We might be able to, instead of having 50 hours of oxygen, we might be able to prolong it just a little bit more. So it just turns into a huge bloodbath. Meanwhile, we're just getting twists and twists and twists as the scavengers are just looking through the logbooks and reading the diary and trying to put the pieces together of what happened. So that's basically the gist of what's going on, is that everything in the past that's happening, it's not happening the way it's we see it happening. By that I mean when we get the flashbacks aren't 100% genuine. The flashbacks are what Kazuma has written down in the diary, as well as what they've seen through like security cameras. So some of the things that we see don't actually happen. So then it becomes this thing where we're reading stuff that may or may not have happened, but we have no idea until later on the scavengers finding out. So like 2 characters could have been attacking each other and one of them could have killed the other, and we see that happening. But then later on, as the scavengers are watching the security footage, they realize, hey, wait a second, there was actually a third person in this scene who killed these 2 characters. They didn't, one of them didn't kill the other. It was a third character that came in and killed both of them. So this diary is lying, or it's wrong, So it's stuff like that where as we're reading the past flashbacks, we can't completely rely on what we're seeing because this is just from one character's point of view, and that character could be an unreliable narrator because that character obviously wasn't there to witness everything. Like, he can only witness what he himself sees. So the other things are just stuff that he's kind of piecing together. So he's like, okay, maybe this is how this event happened. And so he's writing it down in the diary. And so the scavengers are thinking, okay, so this is what happened. But then later on they see footage and like, wait, that's not how it happened. It happened a completely different way. So it becomes this thing where it's like, what can you believe? You can believe everything that the scavengers are seeing because that's real time. But everything in the past, you don't know if it actually happened that way or if it happened a different way. So it's just really unique thriller take on The Lord of the Flies, where you just have students murdering each other trying to survive, but then you also have this unreliable narrator thrown in there, and you don't know what's really happening. And then, like I said before, the artwork is just freaking gorgeous. I'll probably show interiors on Rumble and Bitchute, but if you're watching this on YouTube or Odyssey, I won't show interiors because Japanese publishers tend to copy strike anything that shows interior artwork. At least that's been the case for me. But yeah, this series has been just amazing so far. At the time of this recording, I'm recording this on the 26th of January. You probably won't see this until like maybe a couple of weeks afterwards. But at the time of this recording, there are 12 chapters out so far, and the 12th chapter just came out 9 hours ago. So this is getting fairly updated. So for example, last few chapters we had 9 hours ago, 11 days ago, 16 days ago, 22 days ago. So I think this is what, like a bi-weekly kind of series. Either way, it's fantastic. I'm really just enjoying the hell out of it. Just like the drama and just the psychological thriller aspect of it. And yeah, it's fantastic. So there you go. There's Leviathan. I highly recommend checking out. I'll leave a link in the description to where you can read it below, but it's been phenomenal. And I'll even say that the scanlation, so the scanlations by Lost and Forgotten Scans, they have done a really good job. Because for me, manga can always be kind of hit or miss. Like lately, it seems like at least the stuff that I've been reading, the scanlations have been really, really good. But there have been plenty of times in the past where it feels like it's just a direct Google translation. So like grammatically, things just don't make sense. Like I'm reading it, I'm like, okay, I know what you're trying to tell me, but it just grammatically it just reads kind of terrible, and so it throws me off because it's like people don't talk like this. But that's not the case here. I think Lost and Forgotten Scans have done an amazing job with the translation. Like not only do I understand what the characters are saying, but everything reads grammatically correct. There hasn't been like spelling errors and things like that. It's been a fantastic translation. So yeah, overall, like this has just been a fantastic series. Great translation, great artwork, great story, interesting characters, awesome twists that you don't see coming, but once they happen, if you go back and read again, you can kind of see the seedlings of, leading up to the twists. So the twists aren't just like, being pulled out of the author's ass. Like it's actually set up there. It's just you don't really notice it until the reveal happens. So yeah, I can't say enough about this series. It's amazing. Go check it out. But yeah, I'm rambling at this point, so I'm just gonna end it here. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you got any recommendations, let me know, and I will try to check them out whenever I get the time. But I hope to see you next time. Take care. Later.